All right, everyone out there, I've got my good friend and brother in Christ, Carl Herring, here today to do a podcast. Carl, how are you doing?
Man, I am outstanding. It's been a great day. This is going to be an exciting week.
What do you got going on this week that's going to be exciting?
Well, I lead the Stephen ministry at the church, and so I have a meeting tonight. Thursday, I'm having another meeting with a group of people just to learn more about Stephen ministry, so I'm very excited about that.
Hey, can you tell the people listening right now what Stephen ministry is and what they do?
Great. Stephen ministry is a ministry of lay people who've been through training that maybe belong to our church, maybe not, but they're Christians, and they've been through 50 hours of training to learn how to work with people, to walk beside them when they're going through a burden in their life. Maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's a death in the family, maybe it's just their youngest kid going off to college, but we're here to work with them and just help them find their feelings and always take them back to the cross whenever they meet with us.
That is an amazing ministry to be a part of. I got a question for you. Can you explain what laity means to some of the people that don't know?
Well, it's somebody, we've gone through training, but we're not certified. It's not a school. It's something, we have a script we follow, we train people, we work together as a group to support each other to make sure we're all offering the best care we can to individuals who come and work with us.
Is there any charge associated with this service?
No, not at all.
So everything's free?
Everything's free.
And is there group sessions, or are they one-on-one sessions?
Great question. They're one-on-one sessions. Men meet with men, women meet with women. The charter is that we meet an hour to an hour and a half once a week with who we consider a care receiver, and just we work with them. We let them talk. That we let them share with what they want to share, where they say whatever they want to say. It's non-judgmental, and we're just there loving on people.
That's wonderful. So let me ask you this. Can someone say, for example, reach out to our Oro Valley Church office and say, I'm in need of a Stephen minister, and are there any prerequisites to that? Can they be outside of our community?
Absolutely. There's ways to get to us. We have a phone number that the church office will give to you. We have an email address. We also have it on the OVCN app, where you can go in and request a Stephen minister. And there's no requirements about going to our church or being in the community. It's just, if you need help, we're there for you.
That's amazing. So do you hear that out there? If anyone's struggling and you need help, you can reach out to Oro Valley Church of the Nazarene, and they'll put you in connection with Stephen ministry and get a Stephen minister to walk with you and help you.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. How did you get into Stephen ministry?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I remember, and it's been over 11 years, sitting in the congregation, and they had a slide up on one of the monitors saying, "Do you have a heart for working with people? Join Stephen ministry." And so I nudged my wife and said, "Oh, this is you. This has got you all over it." So that was over 11 years ago, and now here I've been leading it for 10 years. My wife was helping me, or we led it together for 10 years. But, I had the vision for her, but really it was a vision for me, myself. So it's been a blessing for the last 11 years going through this program.
So 11 years ago, you feel this call on your heart. Did you jump right into leadership, or did you become a Stephen minister ministering?
I became a Stephen minister. So I went through the training, which I said is 50 hours, went through the training, and then after about a year, the current leader said, "Hey, would you like to go to leadership training?" So my wife and I went to leadership training in St. Louis, Missouri, and that was another 50 hours of training to learn how the program works from an administrative standpoint. So we took that training, and then the current leader had to step away at that time, just coincidentally. So we took it over right away.
That's great. Regarding wanting to be a Stephen minister, are there any prerequisites like church membership or attending church? What other, if someone outside of the OVCN community wanted to be a Stephen minister, can they contact you? And
Yes, they can. My interview is I'm going to ask about, are they a true Christian believer? Are they a believer and follower in Christ? That's my number one criteria. Second thing is, do they have the heart to help people? Are they empathetic? And then there's the easy thing is, are you a snowbird? Because it doesn't. This is a ministry of being present with people. And if you're a snowbird and you're gone 6 months a year or 4 months a year, it really just doesn't work too well. So being a born-again Christian, being empathetic, and being available, those are the three things that I look for.
Awesome. So how strong is your ministry? What's the size of your ranks right now?
Right now we have about 31, 32 people. I want to say about 11 men, the rest women. And I could just say they are just wonderful people. Each and every one of them are special. They love Christ. They just love helping other people. They love being available and working with people, and they love the ministry. They're very supportive of me, which I really appreciate. And I learn something new every day and every week from my ministers, not just me teaching them stuff.
Well, that's the makings of a great leader.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. So I know this is a bit of a subjective number, but how many people do you usually minister to in a year's time?
That's a tough question to answer. We have enough care receivers to keep all the Stephen ministers busy, meaning meeting once a week with our care receivers. We have other activities. We provide grief share on Thursday nights. We provide divorce care on Tuesday nights. We provide divorce care for kids on Tuesday night also. So those groups, we may have, right now in divorce care, we have 14 people who show up on a regular basis. Grief share has about 18 people showing up on a weekly basis. So those people we're touching weekly and for 13, 14 weeks at a time. Meanwhile, we have the other care receivers that we meet with weekly. And so we're busy.
Sounds like it. So, hey, let's get into grief share. Can you tell us a little more about that? And can anyone join grief share?
Oh, yeah. Anybody can join grief share. It's a terrific program. We've been holding it, I want to say, about 7 years at the church now. It is a program that has a participant's workbook where we watch a video, we discuss the video, and then we have homework, which I call it's called On Your Own in the workbook. But when you come back to the class the next week, we discuss the On Your Own material and what was brought to light during working on your own material. And it's most importantly is when you have a group of 18 people who are sharing their own hurts and their own fears and their own just what has happened in their life. That's where the real healing comes in. It's just that relationship building from that group of 18. It is, I got to tell you, it's a wonderful program. The current leaders met in Grief Share a couple years ago. So they're facilitating Grief Share for the first time for us right now.
You know, that is an avenue that is much needed considering this day and age. Everyone will experience the loss of a loved one. And unfortunately, nowadays with the increased suicide rates, we're seeing people passing away far too young. Children and adults that had so much more life left for them. I mean, me personally, if I would have known about a program like this when I lost my brother and his wife and their unborn child, I would have taken part in it. It would have helped me. Because for me, at that time, I had just basically come to Jesus Christ shortly after that. But I was also in a position where I didn't want anything to go forward. I wanted time to stand still. I felt if I went forward in any way, that would create more distance from my brother because he could never come back again.
And that's a very typical feeling. Most people who come into grief share they express feelings like that. And when you hear that feeling from other people across the room, or you've just heard it on the video, and the videos are counselors speaking about griefs, different areas of grief. So when you hear that and you're learning that together in that group setting, it's building that relationship, and it's really helping people walk through their grieving process. Now, grieving is different from everybody, and it comes in like waves in an ocean. Sometimes it's big waves, sometimes it's just little waves. But when you have a group of people working with you, it really helps smooth those waves out a little bit. And it's not too late to take it, even if your loss has been years ago.
Yeah, I Sunday at church, the third service, I was looking across the third space. And out on the patio was the profile of a gentleman who fit the profile of my brother. Mm. And it just, I froze me in the moment. And I purposely could not focus any clearer other than this profile. And it, it makes no sense sometimes. There's no rhyme or reason as to when it hits and how it makes you feel. It never goes away.
Right. And that's very typical. I mean, we have people in grief share right now that have just lost a loved one. We have other people in grief share that have lost loved ones 10, 15, 20 years ago that have never grieved properly. And grieving is necessary, and it's normal, and it's natural. So these are all things people need to understand. It's okay. It's okay to see somebody that reminds you of your brother and just get upset over. That's okay. It happens. It's okay to be at home and then hear a song that you remember from your mother or your dad or your husband that passed away and just start crying. That's okay. And it's all part of the grieving process. And that's what we learn in grief share.
So tell me a little bit about your divorce care program, because you mentioned you have an adult component and a kid component. How does that work?
Right. So divorce care is for adults. And again, it's a very similar program, just like grief share. It's 13 or 14 weeks. It's a group setting where we discuss our feelings, we watch a video, we discuss the video, and then we come back together the next week. Divorce care for kids is a smaller group. More right now, I think we have about 11 kids registered for it, and we have just the most loving adults taking care of those kids you could ever want. They're absolutely wonderful, and it's just a time where kids can express their feelings, their hurts, their fears, their concerns. Not all of the kids have parents in divorce care, but some of the kids, their parents are over in divorce care. So it's like they're learning things together, but separately. And they're getting through that divorce together, but separately. And then they can come back to, at the end of the night, they come back and they can discuss what they've learned. And it's really a beautiful, especially the divorce care for kids. And we are the only church in Tucson that provides divorce care for kids.
Wow.
We're really blessed about having our leader, Ashley, and just does an absolute fabulous job with it.
Would that happen to be Ashley Simpson?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's Ashley Coleman.
Coleman, okay.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of Ashleys at the church, folks.
No worries.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is truly a wonderful program, and we're blessed to have Ashley come and start leading that program for us. Going back to divorce care, the group, we have a wonderful group right now. We have several people who are just very strong Christians, and it makes no sense that you hear a strong Christian going through a divorce, but it happens. It happens a lot. But they're learning. They're all learning. They're all sharing. They're all supporting. And again, they're developing that relationship to heal through this pain. So it's not the same as grief share. It's not the same grief as grief share, but it is a grief. And I think there's a lot more anger attached to it that we work through. So it's been a wonderful process.
So with the individual Stephen Ministry sessions, grief share and divorce care, can people do these programs over and over again, or is it a one and done thing?
Oh, no, it's they can do it as many times as they want. And by the way, grief share, they're all free. Grief share, divorce care, we provide the books, we provide snacks, drinks. They're all free. They're just here for you. We've had a few people come to several sessions of grief share. We've had people come to several sessions of divorce care. And we're just here. And even divorce care for kids. We have some kids, I believe it's their third session of divorce care for kids. And they just love it. They can talk. They love the adults who are working with them. And it's very healing for them.
That's wonderful. I'm going to look at the camera here for a second. Listen, anyone out there who's hurting, who is in need of a Stephen minister, who is in need of divorce care or grief care, you can reach out for help. You can reach out through the Oro Valley Church of Nazarene, and they will get you connected to Carl and his people. You don't have to suffer alone. God doesn't want you to suffer alone. These services are here, and they're available for you for free. Listen, you might be feeling you're the only one going through this. You might be feeling like this is something that I can't share. Everything that is shared in these entities is confidential and kept between you and your Stephen minister or within the group of grief share or divorce care. So please, I implore you, if you are struggling right now, if you're feeling like you need help or you feeling lost, reach out and get the help that you need, because God loves you and God wants you to have that care.
That's right. Thank you, Sal, for that.
You're welcome. So my next question for you is regarding your team. They must experience a lot of emotional stress. They hear a lot of deep and serious things. What do you do for your team to keep them healthy?
That's a great question, too. We have, once a month, we have supervision. And supervision is where we get together to discuss the situation of our care receivers, not the care receiver, but just the situation. And the rest of the team is listening and then also asking, and that's what the leaders especially are responsible for, but asking questions of the Stephen minister about how they're feeling about the relationship. How are they feeling about themselves? Because sometimes you can over-identify. If somebody's going through the same thing you've gone through in the past, sometimes you can over-identify with that. And it pulls you down and makes you part of the problem. So we have to be very careful that we're listening for that. And if it gets to a point where we think it's a bad fit for the Stephen minister, we will move them out of that relationship. And sometimes we actually will have a professional counselor come in and talk to us if there's specifically a dramatic situation that has occurred, and that all the Stephen ministers need to hear that. What's mostly important to me, and what Pastor Craig has told us at the church, is whatever the Stephen ministers need, if they have any need for support, if they need any support from him, any support from a counselor, they will be provided. It will be provided to them.
So how do we provide Stephen ministry care during service? Like say on a Sunday or a Wednesday, how does that work?
Well, we're in back. In the beginning of the service, at the end of the service, we're in the back just waiting for people. And the pastors will point out about the third or fourth song where they offer up communion. They're telling the congregation that Stephen ministers are in the back to pray with the people. Quite often we have a lot of people come back and we could pray with them. A lot of people come back week after week after week because they're burdened and they want this prayer, and it's wonderful that we can do that for them. Periodically we have people come back for healing. They're sick, they've got something going on, so they want some extra prayer for healing. Sometimes they just need God to support them and love them, and they need to feel that. So we do that through prayer, and it's really special time.
Okay, so someone in need of help, do they have to be a believer in Jesus Christ to receive your help?
No. But we will point out it is a Christian organization, and we will be taking them back to the cross gently. And if they don't want to hear, I've had care receivers that have said, I don't want to hear the church stuff, but I just need some help with this. And if that's the case, that's okay. We're not forcing prayers on them, but we're just loving on them, and we're here for them just to love on them and help them through whatever situation they have.
That's wonderful. You're ministering to these people's needs with no strings attached.
Absolutely. No judgment, no strings attached, and totally confidential.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I don't know if everyone caught earlier, but you're very cautious and protective of women and men so they don't find themselves in an uncomfortable situation. So like you stated earlier, men will meet with men, women will meet with women.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work in your group dynamic for grief share and divorce care?
Grief share and divorce care are both group settings. I will say right now, I always try to have one facilitator as a male and one facilitator as a female. That way, when whatever the group dynamic is, like right now in divorce care, it's mostly women. Grief share, it's kind of a mixed dynamic right now, but we're very cautious about it. The Stephen ministers who help me out, if perhaps there's a woman who has a question or is a little bit more upset than normal, they're not going to leave me there talking to this person. They're going to come over and stay with me while I'm talking to a female. Likewise, if there's a man speaking to one of my female Stephen ministers, I'm going to gravitate over there and just make sure I'm there in the conversation. We want to make sure it's all above board and just healthy. Men to men, women to women. And then it goes we try at church during the service, we also try to make sure that men are praying with men and women are praying with women. And if that's not always the case, we bring somebody over additionally, so it's not just one of us.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Outside of, when the church is hosting something and you're present, if there is like a after hours emergency, something of that nature, is there a way to contact a Stephen minister?
Oh, yeah. Actually, if you call the church after hours, it gives the Stephen Ministry phone number. And you call the Stephen Ministry number, it'll come right to my phone. If you press 1 for emergency prayer request or support at a hospital, it comes to my phone. And I answer it, see what your need is. If you need a pastor at a hospital, for example, I'll call the pastors and have them go to the hospital. If you just want to talk to us, if you're a guy and you want to speak to a male Stephen minister, you press 2. If you're a female, you press 3. But this phone system is really, really good for us, and it gives us the opportunity to talk to people if they really need it after hours. I've gotten phone calls late at night, early in the morning, to get people to get a pastor to the hospital to talk to somebody who's in emergency room or in a hospital bed.
So that is an amazing service you're giving to people in need. So literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, if someone's hurting out there, if they make a simple phone call, they can get some help.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And even if you press the 2 for a man or 3 for a woman, I'm going to get an email and I'm going to get notification that somebody has made that call. So, I'll check it on my phone and just follow up to make sure somebody has had the conversation with that person who's called in.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to turn the clock back a bit. I want to go back in time.
Okay.
Carl, tell me a little bit about your childhood. How did you grow up?
Well, I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, actually in Decatur, which was just outside of Atlanta. Went to good old South Decatur Baptist Church growing up. My mom was the church secretary there. She was the pianist at the church. So we were raised going to church and Sunday school with my mom. And she would often take us to the church while she's doing her secretarial duties also. Unfortunately, my dad didn't go very often. So, and as I grew up, I learned that my parents were not equally yoked. Nonetheless, I accepted Christ at Vacation Bible School at South Decatur Baptist Church. And I remember I was about 7, and it was just I remember that moment like it was yesterday. But I also remember my mom telling me later on in life that she used to take us to all these different vacation Bible schools during the summer just to get us out of the house. Which is, if you're going to do that, that's a great place to do that with. But I accepted Christ. The church was a little bit different. It was independent Baptist church, very strict. And as I grew up, I realized it was a lot more legalistic than what I've learned is a good thing. I didn't hear too much about grace growing up at that church. But I also learned I didn't have any friends at my church that I went to school with. So because it was just in another part of DeKalb County, all the other kids went to different middle schools, high schools, elementary schools. So I didn't have any allies. When I was at school, I didn't have anybody that I could look across the room and say, "Hey, I saw you Sunday at church. Can we talk later on? I need to talk to you." I didn't have any allies like that. And I remember when I was in high school asking my mom if we could go to another church. It was a Baptist church, a First Baptist church, and because that's where most of my friends went to church. And for whatever reason, my mom said, no, we're not going to go there, which was disappointing because I still had no allies. So growing up, when I had kids, I made sure I went to a church, a good Bible-believing church, that the kids had friends at that went to school with them, so they had allies. So going back to when I was young, I used to love church. I loved going. But then my mom quit being the secretary. My dad would take us to Sunday school and then pick us up an hour and a half later. So again, that kind of prevented a bonding with people in the church. So as I got into my teenage years, I was seeking somebody. I was seeking allies. We had Young Life at my high school, and for some reason, my mom disagreed with Young Life. I couldn't go to Young Life, but I found another group. I want to say it was like Campus Crusade. I'm not sure if it was, but it was more biblically structured. So I started riding my bike to a friend's house for that. But I was always seeking somebody. But it was always a little bit more difficult because I didn't have that bond with people I went to church with. So that weighed on me a little bit. And then, of course, when I went to college, Katie barred the door. I'm out on my own, and I'm so used to not having people support me, Christian friends support me. I went to Georgia Tech to become an engineer, and it just, I don't think I went to church the entire 4 years I was at Georgia Tech.
Wow. So 7 years old, you come to Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say at that point the spirit of conviction was on your heart?
I do. I do feel like, and I've thought about this a lot recently, I wasn't just a kid raising his hand to say, yeah, I don't want to go to hell, I want to go to heaven. It was more than that. It was, yeah, I want to know Jesus. I didn't understand it all, but I knew I wanted to know Jesus.
So you're going into high school, you're a teenager, you're finding, these struggles for what you call allies, it's a trying time for you.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, how's your walk with Christ? How's your relationship with God?
Well, it was, I've thought about that a lot lately too. There were times that I would walk off by myself, maybe at lunch maybe during, between, marching band was the big thing I was in. I was captain of the soccer team too. So,
Hey, I was in the marching band. There's nothing wrong with the marching band.
so, but there were times where I would just walk off and pray, and I felt a closeness with God. Now, I didn't understand it all, but there were times I was just close to Him. I see what our church does now with our middle schoolers and even the elementary schoolers and middle school and high school kids. Man, I was so jealous. I'm so jealous of what OVCN does with those kids now. Man, I had nothing like that. I wish I did. Our pastors, Goose and Marcus and Delinda, man, they're fabulous.
Yes, they are.
And so I look at what we do. And the kids, I went to Kyrgyzstan this year with 9 kids from our church, and they are all just strong, fabulous Christians. And they're all like brothers and sisters to me now after going on a mission trip like that. And our church has done so much to help raise these kids. I'm very proud of it.
It's definitely a unique experience there, and I wish it wasn't. Okay, and let me get into that just a little bit. Pastor Craig, he saw the vision of, hey, we need to minister to children, and we need to get them from the point of being babies to graduating high school, to young adults, to young professionals, and then getting into the men's and women's ministries and such. He wanted to make sure that we had that whole spectrum covered, so no matter where you're at, you'd have a place to plug into. There'd be a pastor there to love on you and care for you. There would be a support team and opportunities and events to be a part of. And that is like a light bulb moment to me when I think to myself, why aren't more churches doing this? It's not about money.
No. It's about loving on each other.
Amen.
It's about loving the kids. There was baby dedication this Sunday, and Pastor Craig is dedicating the baby, but then he turned to the audience and said, you all need to make sure, and this is my interpretation, so it's not a quote, but you all need to make sure we've got strong love here, and we have strong pastors, that we have a group here that is going to love on this individual baby now and help raise them in the way they should go. And it's just I felt such a commitment to make sure that one little child had a loving church and that we had people that can love on the parents and help them if they need it. And that's what our church is all about, is loving on individuals and helping them grow.
Absolutely. And another amazingly beautiful thing that our church does is we don't judge you. We open the doors and everyone is welcome.
Absolutely.
No matter what your situation is, your sexual preference, your personal identity, all of that, we're not going to look at you and go, no, you can't come in. No, please come in. We want to love on you.
Right.
Right? Now, that's not going to stop us from lovingly talking to you about the truth.
Right.
But we want to do life with you. We want to be there for you. We want to support you.
Yes.
And then in the most graceful and gentle ways, we're going to speak the truth to you.
Absolutely.
And it's a beautiful thing.
Yep. Pastor Craig said last Sunday, he said, you come to this church, we're going to love on you, but we're going to love you so much as to not tell you the truth of the Bible. And I think I've taken that to heart quite a bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of misnomers when it comes to Christianity. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of misnomers about God and God's love. And it's no coincidence that it's all twisted by Satan in the secular world. But Jesus calls each and every one of us who are believers to go out into the world and be the fruit of the vine, mm-hmm. which means we're supposed to help. Mm-hmm. We're supposed to care We're supposed to help pick people up, and by the means that we are given,
Mm-hmm.
and some of us are given greater means than others,
Mm-hmm.
but by no means are we to see someone in distress and walk away.
Right. And that, I'm going to go back to Stephen Ministry now, and that's been on my heart since seeing that first slide about Stephen Ministry, is helping other people and just being there for other people, and that's and loving on other people, and that's has been a huge blessing to me for over 11 years now.
All right, I want to go back to Georgia Tech. So you
Okay.
you mentioned something pretty interesting there to me. You're going to Georgia Tech,
Mm-hmm.
and you stopped going to church.
Yep.
So how did that affect your walk with the Lord and your commitment to your relationship with Him?
Well, I mean, honestly, if you don't have a Christian community and you're not going to church, it's not going to be a strong walk. Now, I was in a fraternity, and I had several fraternity brothers come and talk to me about religious things, not about Christ, but about religious things, because they sought me out periodically. I guess because I demonstrated something. Nothing, I was definitely a Christian light. Was I an example to show others in? I probably am being harder on myself than I should be, but I wasn't pleased with the way I was back then. I mean, just definitely, I had accepted Christ, but I was not in the Word. I didn't have a group of people around helping me. So it was not a good relationship. I mean, I trusted God was going to take care of me, and I counted on God. But was it the level of relationship that I have now? Absolutely not. I wish it was. Now I like to beat myself up and go, man, I wish I would have done this better. But I didn't. But I've learned a lot from it, and that's the important thing. And I also know what's really important is I've been forgiven for that too.
Right on.
Yeah.
So you mentioned kids earlier.
Mm-hmm.
How many children do you have?
Well, I have 2 kids from a prior marriage. I don't call them stepkids, but because I love them and raised them like they were my own. And then I have 1 biological child. They're all spread across the country. They're doing very well. North Carolina, Louisville, Kentucky still, and then McKinney, Texas is where they're at. So all spread across the country.
They sure are. So you're going to Georgia Tech. When is the next major change in your life? Is it after you graduate, or what happens next to Carl?
Right. So I moved to Alabama for a year and a half, and then I moved to Dallas. And when I moved to Dallas, I got involved with a small startup Baptist church. And the denomination I don't think really matters, but I mean, it was a Bible-believing, Bible-teaching church. And I got to be friends with the pastor and just really started to grow and really started to hear what Christianity was really all about and what Christ was all about. And the big takeaway was Jesus' grace. Forgiving myself. Jesus had forgiven me for all the times that I didn't follow him, but I also had to forgive myself. And start at that point, that's when I really started growing in Christ and really started going to Bible studies, not small groups, but like periodic Bible studies. But that's when I really started my growth, when I was about, I want to say 27, 28. I'd been in Dallas for a while. And that's when I got involved with that church. So I started growing. And then I married the mother of the 2 older kids. And that's when I really, it's like, okay, boom, we're in church. But it was just, we're in church every Sunday. And it wasn't that community. And so, great group of people, beautiful people, but it wasn't in the town we lived in. So again, I saw myself in them, that they didn't have any friends at school. They didn't have any allies. So we changed church and went to another small church for a little bit where they had Awana for the younger kids. But then we went to another church where a lot of the kids from my kids' middle school and high school went. So they had those allies. And so that was important to me to help them with that. And they started going to summer camps, and the two older kids accepted Christ at a summer camp, and would go on weekend things, events for the kids, sleep-ins or whatever they call them now. But it was great to see them grow up with a group of people they could trust.
All right. So, you're doing life, you got a family. When does the transition from where you're at in that time you just talked about to going to Tucson happens, and why did that happen?
So my job, I went from Dallas to Louisville, Kentucky, and Louisville was great. I was very involved with the kids. I was very involved with the kids. I had a lot of close friends, and I was still growing spiritually, getting closer to God all the time. We went to a good-sized church there with a lot of loving people, good Bible teaching, but the job was not that great. The job was not great. So it got to a point I felt I needed to move because there were aspects of the job I just didn't feel it was conducive to my mental health. So I got a job here in Tucson. Now the older kids were both in college. TJ was finishing college. Betsy had just finished her freshman year. And I said, hey, we're going to move to Tucson. Betsy, do you want to go to U of A? And she said, no, I'm going to stay here at Kentucky. And they both stayed there. TJ finished at Kentucky, and Betsy finished her freshman year. They just stayed there. So, I was pleased that they were mature enough to do that, be on their own like that. So we moved down here, and started my new job, and shortly thereafter, I got divorced. It was just, I want to say a month after I got here, my wife announced she was going to divorce me. So that was tough. That was real tough. But that led to the most growth I ever had in my Christian walk. And I threw myself into church. The two things I threw myself into my brand new job. I did what I had to do there. But I threw myself into my son, who was still here, and I threw myself into church. So I started going to another local church here and really grew a lot and learned things. The relationship with Christ at that point grew so much. And I started going to the single adult class. And after about a year, the leader was marrying somebody in class, so they left the class. So I became the director of the single adults. And so I had a pretty good-sized class that I got to lead. And I continued to grow. I would teach on Sundays periodically. I would create lessons, and that just helped me grow so much. And then the relationships with everybody just continued to help grow. And that's where I met my wife, Donna. She came to class one day, and she just walked in the back, and I just thought, oh my goodness, there's an angel. So we met and got to be friends, and then started dating after a while, and then eventually got married. But that step, getting more involved in Christ and having a community of people that I could trust and count on, I had never had that before. And even as I look back on my life, now with my Stephen ministers, with yourself, with other pastors, I have such a great community of believers that I could call up and say, what do you think about this? Or I'm struggling with that. Now I have that. I never had that before that time. So I really think I was shifted from being incredibly self-reliant to being fully reliant on God. Not quite fully reliant, but I was more reliant on God. And I became more and more and more reliant on God. And then even marrying Donna, just increase my belief in God, my being fully reliant on God. She's taught me a lot. She's an angel. I know I've told you that. She's an angel. But I've learned a lot. And our 16 years of marriage, I have grown exponentially in my relationship with God. I would say, due with a good part of that being her help, being married to her now.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So when did you find yourself starting to come to Oro Valley Church in Nazarene?
Oh, well, Donna and I got married at another church, and we, so we had to leave. I had to turn over my directorship. We used to sing in choir. Donna's a wonderful singer, by the way. So we used to sing in choir there. And then there's a lot of things that started to change. And there was one particular sermon. I think we had been married probably 2 years. And actually, we were married at the church. My pastor, who was in charge of my class, did the ceremony. But there was, we started questioning some things from the sermon, that it was more secular than it was biblical. And we started talking about that. And then there was one particular sermon that we looked at each other and said, okay, we got to start looking. And boy, that was like probably 2011. And we started looking, and we came to OVCN, and just from my standpoint, walking into the sanctuary, just walking onto the campus, I just feel the Holy Spirit there. Everybody is just so loving and supportive and friendly. And, it's like from the moment we were there, we said, man, this feels right. This feels like the place to be. And so that's how we made the change.
Right on. That's how it happened for Ellen and myself as well. Yeah. Just couldn't deny that feeling right from the parking lot. And as we got closer to the sanctuary, it just kept growing.
Yep.
It's an amazing place. But I've mentioned that a couple of times, and we talk a lot about the church that we attend. Mm-hmm. But I'd be remorse if I did not mention that there are other great churches out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And the most important thing about going to a church is if they're preaching the righteous truth of God, and Absolutely. They're not changing it or manipulating it in any way. If you have a place that's doing that and you feel comfortable there, then you've got a great place. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I want to pivot a little bit with the time that we have left. You and I have a couple of common interests. So how did your farming and growing trees come about? Because you've got a nice spread where you're at. And for example, how did the decision come about to start raising pigs?
Well, that's kind of what Donna raised. Donna has owned the property for about 35 years. And when her kids were young, they were involved in, I guess, FFA, Future Farmers of America. And they would show pigs or goats. So we had plenty of property up there. And first we got chickens. And, man, we had a ton of chickens. And I would take eggs to work every day. So I was the egg guy at work. And now we don't have as many chickens, but we still get quite a lot of eggs. So, whenever I have meetings with people, I usually try to take them a dozen eggs. But it's just something fun to give them. And they're really tasty, I must say.
Absolutely.
But then we started raising pigs. Donna said, years ago, Donna said, hey, let's raise a pig. So I had never done anything like that before. So, and also my older sister's family are all into cattle. They actually are very well known for raising show cattle. So, I saw that a lot when I was young. She was actually a veterinarian for large animals. So I saw that. So when Donna said, hey, let's raise a pig, I said, yeah, let's give it a shot. So we raised a pig and slaughtered it. And I fed it too well. And it didn't have any fat on it, and it was not very good. And then we got two. Then we got another time. We got a couple pigs, and they weren't too big, but they started getting aggressive when I'd get in the pen with them to feed them, and they were scaring me. So we took them to butcher, and they were too small. So then we got the third one, and the third one, man, I just fed. We would go to like IHOP and get the breakfast, and then put the pancakes in a different container, and then go feed the pig the pancakes. So all the bad food we gave to the pig, and boy, that pig was tasty. He's really good. And then about the same time, Donna said, hey, let's have a garden. So, I laid out a garden and irrigated it, and then we planted trees around it. So now we've got a grapefruit tree, a couple lemon trees, fig trees. The fig trees are great. The figs are very tasty. Apples, we got a ton of apples. Moringa trees. My moringa tree is about 8 feet tall now.
I told you they grow fast.
Yeah. And then my friend Cliff just gave me another moringa tree, which is about a foot tall. Then we've got tomatoes and zucchini. We had so much food coming out of the garden this year. I was giving it to the Marana Food Bank.
Oh, wow.
Because we just couldn't use it all. And we froze a lot. We had not a dehydrator, but something like that. We had some tool that we could store them all, but we had so much food we just couldn't do it all. So we got plenty of food and gave plenty of it away to the Marana Food Bank.
So the farming and gardening, is that something for you and Donna to kind of decompress and kind of take a chunk of your life and enjoy?
Yeah, it is. It's fun. It's hard work, which is good. But it's good to get out there and work in the garden together. She'll give me direction on, let's put some bird netting up over here. Let's do this. Let's do that. And we usually come to an agreement on what should happen after some conversation. But, it's what she loves to do the most. So she likes it. So I put the effort out to it. And so what was really fun, we had so many figs this last year. We made homemade fig Newtons, and she was making the innards, the jelly aspect, and I was making the pastry. So I made pastry out of whole wheat, and I was rolling this out and getting it put together, and she was putting the jelly on the inside. Boy, they were tasty, very, very good. And we spent barely 30 minutes picking figs, and probably picked 10% of the figs, but we had enough to last for like a month. But that's something like that. That's what's really fun, is when we work together on a project, and that's what the garden allows us to do.
That's great. I mean, I have a love for it as well.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to do a garden themed show here, maybe go on location, film a few shots here and there. But before we come to an end here, Carl, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I'm so thankful that you heard and were obedient to the Lord's call in your life. I mean, it is amazing to see how he works through you, how humble you are, how obedient you are, how much grace you show and love to the people that reach out to you. And you don't say no. God says, Carl, I want you here. And you say, yes, Lord. Yes, my Father. And it's a beautiful thing. We don't see it that often, and I wish we could see it more in people. And the other thing is this. I'm so thankful that the Lord has brought us together. I'm so thankful that we get to do life together.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
And we're going to have to get you to come back on again. Will you be willing to do that?
Oh, absolutely.
All
absolutely.
Right.
And thank you for your kind words. I mean, I just love doing what I'm doing now with Stephen Ministry and all the offshoots from that. I just love it. And I love what God's done in my life and how much he's blessed me because of it, including bringing you into my life.
Yeah. You're a pain in the butt sometimes, huh? Or is that my wife? She's your pain in the butt sometimes.
Your wife is, so in the back of the church the other day, she went off to the side and started praying with somebody, and I hear this. And I said, maybe somebody's calling me over. And your wife was calling me, come over here and pray with us. So that was cool. That was great.
Yeah, I just love how we are we take the family. I'm not going to say approach. Pastor Craig says that we're a family. Our congregation and everyone that's a part of that church is a family. Mm-hmm. And he's just not saying that. We live that. We mean that. We feel that. We love as a family. We do life as a family. And I that's one of the greatest things I love about attending Oro Valley Church of the Nazarene.
I agree. Absolutely.
All right, brother. Well, our time has come to an end. Thank you so much.
Man. Yeah.
And like I said, we'll get you back on at another time.
That would be great. Look forward to it.
Right on.
All right.
Hey, thanks for checking out Keeping It Real with Reverend Sally G. Make sure to follow us on all the different platforms for more great content.